This podcast is proud to be part of the TalkSport Fan Network. TalkSport. Powered by fans.
Welcome to another away end. The games continue to come thick and fast. You are watching the away end in association with AMG Logistics, chief sponsor of Tilton Talk and sponsor of Birmingham City Football Club. I am this evening joined by Ben Ward from the Lincoln podcast, the Stacey West. Ben, thank you very much again for joining us to run through the upcoming game.
No worries, mate. Happy to be here.
So Birmingham go into this game with being a little bit of a wounded animal, I guess. We lost. We lost the game on Tuesday night against, in all honesty, a very good Bolton side. Especially second half of the game, they were absolutely phenomenal, and it's credit to Bolton for their result. But a 3-1 loss is so unusual for us, and in fact, that was our first one in 18 games. You guys, though, come into it bit of a mixed bag of form, I think is probably the best way to describe it. So you do come in after a good 4-1 win against Crawley on Tuesday evening, but it also sees a run of 3 losses and 2 wins in your last 5 in the league. So it really is a bit of a mixed pot. But obviously on Saturday, Birmingham are going to be looking to bounce back. At St Andrews at Knighthead Park, another big crowd expected as we all get the wind up as we head towards Wembley. The tickets now on sale, so people are getting extra excited. But also we want to continue that form, which sees us unbeaten at St Andrews at Knighthead Park in the league this season. So, first of all, been a while since we've played each other. We've had, the FA Cup game in between, but from a league perspective, there's obviously been quite a few differences. You've had a transfer window, which players came in with. So, tell us what to now expect from the Lincoln side come Saturday. Who came in during the window that we should watch out for? And obviously, as the season's gone by, players have changed. So who should we now be extra weary of? And finally, where, if any, have you got weaknesses?
Yeah, I think the first thing is it'd be really nice if we knew what to expect from the game on Saturday, to be honest with you. We've been a bit Jekyll and Hyde over the past few months, to be honest with you. I mean, obviously, the biggest thing regarding the transfer window was, there's 3 certainties in life: death, taxes, and Lincoln needing a striker in the window. It's how it always goes. And thankfully, we managed to secure the signing of James Collins in the window. An experienced striker. We knew we needed some experience in the squad, especially around that top end of the pitch, because our strike force this season has been consisting of the likes of Jova Makama, who's an academy product, Freddie Draper, who's an academy product, Bailey Cadamartri, who we've got on loan from Sheffield Wednesday, and then Tyler Walker, who has been injured for as long as I can remember, and I don't think he'll be at the club again next season. So, it's been having Collins come in and being able to help the younger lads in and sort of on and off the pitch. I think it's been probably a good thing. The most obvious point is that previously, when we've got somebody coming in the January window, it's been a loan, whereas Collins we've signed on an 18-month deal, so he's here next season as well, which is going to be really handy for us, going into next season. Another signing that we made was Sam Clucas coming back to the club, his boyhood club. He only played 1 game for us about 15, 16 years ago. Went out, had an amazing career, played in the Premier League, played in all sorts of games, above the level that we'd ever be able to get to. And he's come back, and he's it's not just a nostalgia signing. He said he wants to make a difference, and he wants to do well for us.
Nice when you get players that want to actually do that, and I suppose give back to the club what they gave to him in the start off.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think he's potentially wanting to go into coaching as well. I mean, he's 34, so he's probably the right sort of age to see his career out here and then go into coaching if he wants to. And then we signed Joe Gardner from Nottingham Forest on loan as well. Unfortunately, he had a bit of a nightmare debut. Got sent off in a ludicrous decision, to be honest with you. He came on literally 4 minutes and he was sent off into his debut.
Quickest debut you'll ever see, then, yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, it was awful decision. But he's back now, and he's he scored on Tuesday night. He looks like a real live wire. So, some positive signings in January, but I think overall, I don't really know what has changed. I mean, it's just been so topsy turvy so far this season. Like you say, we've had a very brief good spell, then a dodgy spell, and then we've lost a few on the bounce. I don't think we won many at all over Christmas and January. It was like we just didn't really know where the next win would come from. The
league, I think, shows that as well, because at one point you were in there looking as though you'd be one of those teams that was pretty stable and fighting for one of the playoff positions. And now to see you down at 12th in the league, I'm not going to lie, when I looked at it, I was actually quite shocked, because what I remembered was a side that was giving most teams a run for their money and holding their own at that one point in the playoffs. I mean, do you think that is now a step too far, or is this something that you still aspire to get to?
I mean, obviously, I think it's too far this season. Unless we obviously went on a ridiculous run towards the end of last season from January onwards. I think we went 16 games unbeaten last season in the back half of it. But I think the biggest thing is, and it's one of those conversations that you have, particularly with the likes of yourselves in the conversation, where the amount of money that's being pushed around in the division this season is quite frankly, it's ridiculous. And it's not a slight on teams like yourselves, because you have the ability to do it, and if you can, you might as well. I think where some of the issue comes in is where people are doing it to a point where they're going to potentially damage the future of their own club.
Indeed.
You've got to be sustainable in what you do, and I think that's maybe where there's been a slight disconnect between some of our fans and the club, because I think it's been confirmed. The budget league table came out and was distributed to clubs, and we found out that we were 19th in that table. So it's like, if you look at purely how much money is being spent, we're in the bottom six. So in order to overachieve in the levels that we have before, we've got to go absolutely mad. And it's a shame, because last season obviously we came one game away from the playoffs, and it was just an unbelievable season. But I think having a board and having a chairman that puts sustainability and not putting the club at risk above anything else, I think is something that people maybe take for granted a little bit.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, we said at the start of the season, 10th is probably a decent spot for us this year, given how we expected the league to go. I don't think we quite expected to be, that far down in the financial tables. But we would have been satisfied as a podcast if we finished 10th this season. And to be fair, I'd be satisfied if we finish where we are now, because we've got a decent foundation for the future. It doesn't necessarily mean we're going to do it next season, but at some point, I think we will be up there again.
And that's what. I mean, it's one thing that I've noticed throughout the league. I mean, like you said, we spent the money. Yes, we spent the money. I think no matter what league we would have been in, if we'd have stayed in the Championship, we'd have still spent the money. So the owners put us into a position where we could do that. And you're talking about your owner there saying, we've got to stay within the rules. We've got to make sure we can sustain the club and the running of it. At the end of the day, it all comes down to the amount of revenue that you pull in. And as we are finding now, through new sponsorship deals or additional things that they're doing in the club, the revenue increase means that we're in a good position to take a step forwards. And we've done that so far and could well do that again in the summer. But the clubs throughout the whole of the league need to be in that same position. And I think it's fair to say that the teams that have been able to spend the money are those that have probably built up over time. So, Wrexham have spent a fair bit, for example, but their owners now are making pleas to fans to go out and buy tops and merchandise so that they've got additional revenue coming in. We've got a huge advantage at Birmingham, and that's the fact that we've got a massive fan base and, 18,000 season ticket holders, sell out away end for each of the games that we've had this season. Some games taking over 4,500. We took 4,000 to Bolton midweek. We've taken 4,500 and 5,000 to Wigan and to Barnsley. So we've got that following. We're lucky.
Yeah.
Teams like yourselves are building and, are putting things together that mean that, like you say, give it another 12 months or 24 months, you might be in a position then to go and push and go, do you know what? We don't just want to have the playoffs. We actually want to win the league. And I applaud all of the owners that actually do that. I can say that now because we've got owners that have backed us, but I also know that in the past we have had owners that have near enough taken us under. Yeah, we've had the Kumars who, had it have not been for who was he? David Gold, David Sullivan coming in, buying the club as they did for £1, and then paying off the debts. If it wasn't for them, we may not be around now. We've got our owners now who have come in and took over from the Chinese regime, who we didn't know who they were. Came in with all the best will in the world to say they were taking the club forwards. We then lose an owner because he was caught money laundering. We then get new people come through the door who say they're coming to save us, but we never knew who they were. And now, similar to yourselves, we've got owners that are putting themselves front and centre and are not afraid to put themselves out there and say who we are and back where they can to help the clubs. So
I think one of the things about Lincoln is that consistently we're put in. I don't know if you follow Kieran Maguire at all, but he with the price of football, he consistently sort of says that of the clubs in the division, the term gold standard is used quite a bit with Kieran when it comes to Lincoln. The transparency from the club where it's possible, essentially as much information as they can possibly put out, they will do without breaking confidentiality. And there's a lot to be said for that.
I applaud it. I think every club, no matter which league they're in, should be as transparent as that. Birmingham are getting better, but in the past we've heard nothing. We had chairmen and CEOs running the club, and you never ever heard from them, apart from when something went wrong, or the fans had put a petition out saying, "Tell us what the hell's going on," And they were the times that you only ever heard. So it was when the pressure was on. So I totally applaud the teams and the clubs that are running it in such a way that they are as transparent as what Lincoln are. And Birmingham are getting there. They're very, very good. They've still got room for improvement. They know they have. Rome wasn't built in a day, as they say. And my God, we didn't have enough the building blocks or the foundations to start thinking about building a Rome when they came through the door. But we are getting there now. But I mean, you've mentioned the owners. You've mentioned the way they run the sustainability. The fact that you're building over time. When we spoke before, I think expectations we're similar to like you've just mentioned. You know, if you finish mid-table, that's a half decent season, but actually is a bit disgruntled because of how well you did last season.
Mm-hmm.
Now, looking at the league table, it is remarkably close. You know, we obviously we're top of the league. Most people will go, that's where you should be with the amount of money, etc. You spent. That's where you should be. But if we take Birmingham out of the equation and then look at the other teams that are in the league, you've got Wickham on 67 points, you've Wrexham 65, Stockport 61, and then Charlton 59. Final place in the playoffs, Huddersfield on 58. But then after that, it is so close. And really, to me, this league is far from sorted. I'd argue that there's potential for teams still to get second spot. I think it could still juggle about. And you know, look at Lincoln, 46 points as you stand at the moment. You are 12 points behind the playoff spots, same amount of games. Do you think you could do it? Or is it this season a total step too far?
I think it's a step too far this season. Honestly, I think we've just been too inconsistent. Unless we can suddenly put a run together like we did, as I say, at the back end of last time, I just think it's going to be too much to ask. We've been hit by a few injuries. We've been hit by selection headaches, and I think one of the biggest issues is if you look at, and Gary, who's been, who's the sort of head honcho on the Stacey West, he's a big fan of XG. He's looked at the XG table, and it's essentially if we looked at the expected goals that we would have scored, the expected goals we would have had against, if you purely base the league table on XG of all the teams, we would be sixth in the division. It's been a case of we've not been able to finish. We've conceded very silly goals, and half of those goals that we conceded, if not more, have just been from silly individual mistakes. There's nothing systematically wrong with what we're doing at the back. It's genuinely. I mean, if you go back and you watch the goals from the Barnsley game at the weekend, we were 3-0 down, and all three of them were absolute gifts. We came back and, the game ended up 4-3. We rallied in the second half, and it was actually quite a good watch for the last half an hour. Yeah. But before then was just so painful to watch because it's repeatedly happening. And it's one of those things where you've got to try and drill it out of people. But how do you get into someone's head? It's like, don't make a silly individual mistake. You can't coach that. You can't train that. It's just everybody makes mistakes. It's just unfortunate that it seems to be happening more frequently than we'd like. And as much as I would love to sit here and say, look, we're closer to the playoffs than we are the bottom end of the table, I think we could do it. We've got all the belief in the world. I just think we're probably going to fall short again this season. Whether that's on the last day like it was last year, or whether it'll be, this time next month we'll be sat here going, well, that was a decent season. I don't know, but I think it's too far.
And you mentioned the mistakes. Well, what do you think builds and creates the mistakes? Is it just that the confidence of the players is low, or is it the just at times they're, as harsh as it might sound, not good enough for the league? I mean, or is it a mixture?
I don't think it's that they're not good enough for the league. I think when it comes to Lincoln City and teams that are kind of in and around our stature, we will always have to be better than the sum of our parts. We are not going to have 11 league beaters, on the pitch every time. And I'm always, whenever I think about it, I'm always reminded of back in the early 2000s with Lincoln and Keith Alexander's sides. One season, I think it was 2000, 2001, we nearly went out of business. We went into administration. We were the first club to go into administration after ITV Digital went bust. And we basically got a shoestring team of former non-league players. And, I think Simon Year was a postman playing part-time football. And he came in and we ended up getting to the playoff final that season against Bournemouth, of all the teams, before they went on their ridiculous run.
I was going to say, before they decided that they were going to take over every league and get themselves and then steady the ship in the Premier.
Yeah, pretty much. But I'm reminded of that team because we need to be more than the sum of our parts. But when it comes to, whether the players are good enough to be in League One, I think they are. This is probably the best Lincoln City squad that I've seen. I think confidence is a massive thing, in the squad in general. By and large, I think we've got one of the younger squads in the division.
Yeah.
As I say, we had more experience come in. I think we've now got experience in each area of the pitch. We've got Tendai Dorico at right wing back, who is 32, I think 32, 34. We've got James Collins up top, who's 34. We've got Sam Clucas, who's 34 in midfield. He won't be playing every week, but he'll obviously be in and around the squad.
Yeah.
I think it's having a core of experience around the youth that we've got. I think we're in a good place for the future. But yeah, when it comes to just making mistakes, I think confidence is a big thing. And I think having maybe a lack of understanding in some areas is just it's been critical to us this season.
I mean, you mentioned injuries, but Birmingham are absolutely, some of them are dropping like flies at the moment. So we look at the weekend. Yes, we've just got Stansfield back, and that's just a weight off everybody's shoulders, because when he got injured during the semi-final of the Virtue Cup, the way he went down, the way he was stretchered off, everybody is thinking completely the worst. This guy's broke his leg or he's done something worse and he's going to be out for a lot longer. 2 and a bit weeks, he is back. And albeit that he came off the bench on Tuesday evening, you could tell that he was biting at the bit to get out there. So we're going to see Stansfield back in the side. Leonard as well. He was back in the squad. He didn't make the match squads in order to play, but travelled with the team. And he is coming through and getting a lot better. But we've lost Allsop through a niggle of an injury, I believe. Not too sure how long he's going to be out for, which puts Bailey Peacock-Farrell into goal. And, for those that saw it on Tuesday night, his first one was a howler. He was beaten at his near post. And any team that is looking at Birmingham at the moment is going to be going, there's the weak spot, we've got to attack it. And that's what I expect from Lincoln on Saturday. I think they will, without fail, come at us because of what was seen at Bolton. You're coming in on a high. You didn't score 4 goals just through being lucky. You score 4 goals because you're a team that can go out and he's capable of doing so and upsetting anybody on the day. And so it's going to be a tough game on Saturday. You've mentioned a few of the players to kind of watch out for, and those that I suppose can have a mistake in them, shall we say. But you've also mentioned the goal scorers. Now, bit of a challenge for you. So Birmingham have played quite a few games over the seasons between ourselves and yourselves. In fact, from a record perspective, it's 39 games that the two clubs have actually played. Of those 39, 27 have been won by Birmingham. There's been 8 draws. We have only lost 4 of them. So the record is like, oh God, that's not pleasant reading, but records are there to be broken, as I like to say. We go into the game this weekend, where in the past 5, Birmingham have won them all. Something could give. But we've also had a lot of people that over the years have scored the goals for the club. And I'm wondering, are looking for 5, the top 5, in fact, goal scorers in the fixtures between Birmingham and Lincoln over the years. Now, there are some names on here that they're older players.
Yep.
There's an existing player from out the squads that is also in the list. Of the top 5, though, there's unfortunately only one Lincoln player. Right? That one Lincoln player has scored 1 goal. I'll try and make it a little bit easier. I can say that he was a centre forward.
Okay.
The other
Well, I
four.
mean, if we're going for Lincoln players that have scored one goal, I'm gonna claim the two that have scored recently for us, because then that at least gives me half a shout, surely. I mean, we've got Bailey Cadamartra, we've got Jovan McCarmer in there. They've obviously scored this season. I'm just trying to think. I know, because obviously, I'm of a certain age. I'm 38, so it's like, I've not got I've not got the vast depths of knowledge for Lincoln. But yeah, I think I do remember, because I actually went to university in Birmingham,
Yep.
and it was in my Freshers Week was the League Cup game at St Andrews back in 2004, and I
Okay.
distinctly remember going with a friend because I was like, "Yep, cool. First week in Birmingham, I'm going to go out and then we're going to get really drunk." So we did, and yeah, I remember Simon Yeo scoring for us, and I think Robbie Savage scored for you guys as well.
Do you know, you've just named your Lincoln player and one of those other players that's in that top five. Yes.
Okay.
So Simon Yo, yeah. I mean, wow, whirlwind of well, I can't even say a season. I don't think, based on the stats that I've got. Did he only actually represent you 12 times in that particular season, which was, I think, 2005, 2006? Um,
Sounds about right. I think he went to Peterborough, if I remember rightly.
he did indeed. He left to go to
Yeah.
Peterborough. Prior to that, though, he had made 122 appearances. His 37 goals during 2002 to 2005. But the interesting thing for me was the 05-06 season when he was there for those 12 games, he actually scored 13 goals. So
Mm.
he was, quite a prolific overall goal
It,
scorer as
he he
well.
never needs to buy a pint in Lincoln. He is an absolute Lincoln legend. But yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think. I can't remember who else scored in that game. Um,
Well, I could like to say, you've
did
definitely
Gronkiar
got
get
Simon
one?
Yo, you've got Robbie Savage, who you've mentioned.
Did Gronkiar get one?
Gronkiar did get one, yes.
Um,
And he only scored one goal as well between the clubs in the games.
yeah. Um, I mean, is this fairly recent? Because I know. Oh, who was it that got two? Somebody got two. Um, was it Keshi Anderson got two, didn't he?
Keshi Anderson got two, and he is the top goal scorer across those areas.
Yeah.
Your final one,
Yeah, go on, put me out my misery.
it was actually in and around the same seasons as your Gronkiar and your Robbie Savage. And
Okay.
it's Clinton Morrison.
Oh, of course. I
Um,
think he might have got the third in that game.
yeah, and it did just make interesting reading the fact that we've got nobody across either of the clubs that's really gone out and spanked loads of goals like I've seen from other areas. So, right, we've tested your knowledge of the goal scoring. Now it's time to test what your head and what your heart says in regards to the weekend. So, um, as mentioned, we're going to have quite a large crowd at St Andrews at Knighthead Park. People coming to the game. Expectations, as you can imagine, from a Birmingham front are quite high. However, after what happened Tuesday, we never know. But tell us, what does your heart say the result will be, and what does your head say the result will be?
My heart says that we'll go to Birmingham, we'll put on an amazing performance, and we'll come away with a very hard fought 1-1 draw. My head says that we'll go to Birmingham, we'll put on a decent performance, and we will be delighted if we can come away with a 1-1 draw, but I think we're going to get beat.
And what do you think the score will be if you think you're going to get beat?
I'd probably say, I mean, what we've had a 3-1 loss and a 2-1 loss. I'd say another 2-1. I think as long as we don't make a daft mistake. 'Cause, I mean, again, I think we did. You watched the first goal in the FA Cup. It was a silly mistake, and it led to a goal. It's the story of our season. If we can come away without doing that, come away without getting hammered, I think we'll be a happy bunch on Saturday.
I mean, as far as predictions go, I definitely got Tuesday wrong. So I'm hoping I don't get this one wrong. But I mean, I've said throughout that I think it'll be a hard fought game. We are looking to bounce back after what happened from Tuesday, and I can only imagine that. Let's just say that the language may have been a bit coarse after the game in the dressing room. So I think we are going to have some players that are out to prove a point. However, we have got this. I can't call it an injury crisis because it's not a crisis, but we've got this run of injuries that keep on cropping up. We will be without key players. So we're definitely going to be without the Allsop in goal. We're without Laird in the defence. So we do lack a little bit of pace. However, we have got players coming back. So as mentioned, Stansfield coming off the bench would not surprise me one little bit to see him starting on Saturday. Alfie May is not the Alfie May we saw at the start of the season for whatever reason that may be. But that kid's still capable of a goal. So I think it's going to be an interesting one when it comes to who is picked and who starts. We've also got Williamson, who in midfield has been a workhorse, but on Tuesday night was non-existent. Now he's going to want to have a point to prove as well. So it's going to be a tough game, no matter what. They always are in this league, despite what people think. You know, no team at the end of the day wants to go and get whipped. So they're always coming. And teams coming to St Andrews at United Park play at 110%. They're not, they want to give it that extra little bit. It's like an FA Cup day, really. So my prediction is a 2-0 win, but I think it will be very hard fought. And I'm not expecting an easy game at all. So looking forward to it, hoping that we can maintain the lead, if not extend it at the top. It would be nice to do that, but it's going to be another tough one as we go into Saturday and then follow it at home again on Tuesday. It's ridiculous. But Ben, thank you very much for joining us.
Man.
On
Thanks for having me.
It's been great to catch up this season and have the opportunity to speak across all of the games. I wish you all the best for the remainder of this season and hopefully, whichever way it takes you moving forwards. And let's just hope that there isn't a massive gap between when we have this conversation again and go through the details of what to expect. So thank you again for joining us on the away in with association with AMG Logistics. I've been Craig Courtney, and as always, I will sign off by saying, keep right on. Thanks a lot, Ben.
No worries, mate. Take care.